interactive polling throughout the meeting, and we'll give you some instructions on how those work a little bit further in. What we are here to talk about tonight is the Stanley White Recreation Center within the city of New Bern, replacement facility for that center. This is one of many engagement sessions that we are having with the general public. We've had a drop-in session already, and we're doing these focus group sessions, and that's because we really want your input. We want your input on what this facility needs to be to best serve the community for the long term. So we have a survey that's out online right now and active. If you could, please go on and take that survey at your convenience. It is posted on the city's website. It's also on the Parks and Rec Department's Facebook page. And if you need a link to that, just reach out and we can get you that link as well. So there's a lot of opportunities for some feedback on that online survey. These focus groups, this is our first of 4 focus groups. This is what we're calling the nonprofit organizations generally. We have a couple more. We have one with a lot of community leaders, one's with Parks and Recreation and City Services. That's with planning and fire and all of those, stormwater, all of those organizations that help with the maintenance and the ongoing maintenance and running of this facility. And a 4th one with New Bern citizens, and that's that date is still to be determined, but we'll be getting that information out as well. And then if you have any other thoughts on the project, please feel free to email those to the email noted, stanleywhite@newbernnc.gov. And then that QR code in the corner will bring you to, the city has a dedicated page for the Stanley White Recreation Center and for ongoing notification of everything that's happening with this process and the schedule and the engagement sessions that we're doing. So encourage you to reach out and take a look at that. There's some updates coming to that website in the near future that'll have some questions and answers, commonly asked questions and responses to those, which will hopefully help answer some questions you may have. In terms of a timeline for what we're doing here, we are in that top bubble, that phase 1 bubble of the community engagement. We had a drop-in session on August 31st, and we are in the process of all of these focus groups right now, meeting in a little bit smaller setting to be able to get some more specific feedback and have discussions with you all regarding the needs for this facility. And then we'll have another public drop-in session at the end of at some point in October, and that'll kind of relay a lot of the results that we've gotten from the survey, from the previous drop-in, from the focus groups, back out to the general public so they can all see the feedback that's been coming in from everyone else in the community. After that, we will move into programming. That's where we determine what spaces are in the facility, what size those spaces are. And we'll have and then we'll move into conceptual design, which looks at the organization of those spaces, the look of the facility on the outside. And we'll have another drop-in session, our 3rd drop-in session around that time also to get some additional, have some additional conversation with the general public. And then look at opinion of probable costs and a presentation at the end of January to the Board of Aldermen. So that's this first phase of this project. It's a lot of information gathering phase. What are we talking about today? So today, I think it's pretty clear we're talking about the Stanley White Rec Center. It was substantially damaged in 2018. We understand it's a major fixture of the community, and the city is really excited about launching the planning efforts to rebuild. And so what we're doing here is, again, gathering information on what that looks like, what needs to go into this facility. This is one thing that has come up a lot, so we put it up here and it will be in the Q&A, constraints and opportunities. If it stays in that existing location, that existing location is in a floodplain. That footprint cannot be expanded. That's about the 18,000 square feet. The city of New Bern has just over $8 million fully allocated committed funds. Those are dedicated to this project alone. They will not be used, and there has been motion by this Board of Aldermen that those funds will not be used for any other projects other than this one. And the breakdown of those funds is on that screen as well. So as we get into the interactive portion, just to get you started, we will be doing this using this program called Poll Everywhere. You can join and you can give feedback in a few different ways. You can text a response, or if you're on a computer, you can go to a web application and go to pollev.com. Or you can do the same thing on your phone in a web application. So any of those three responses work. And if you're doing a text response, it does not need to be a smartphone, can be any regular phone at all. So I'll have instructions on the slides where we do some of the polling, but just wanted to throw this up there. Go ahead and start pulling that information up, because our next slide will be our first test to see how you do getting into the polling program. So our first question is, have you responded to the survey? And again, you can text Rachel N 563 to the 22333. You only need to text that once and then text A or B for yes or no. Or you can go to pollev.com /Rachel N 563 and you can respond that way. So we will wait here a minute, let people get in. And like I said, once you get in that first time, you don't need to text the Rachel N or log in at all anymore. If you're on a web application, it'll automatically move to the next question for you.
Hey, Rachel, I have a question, if that's fine.
Yes.
Yes, I just joined in by the phone number, so I haven't downloaded the application or anything. So is there any place to give this feedback later on after the presentation?
Yep, we can collect it later. You don't need to download an application at all. You can just do a text message too. Just so you're aware, you can just, if you go into your text message, just start a new message and send that message to 22333 would be the phone number you'll send that message to. And then
just a minute, 2233.
Yep, so that'll be the phone number that you send the message to, and then the body of the message should say Rachel N 563, and it doesn't matter. I believe it doesn't matter if it's capital or lowercase, but if you have any issues.
Just a second, Rachel, and what's the number?
Rachel N as in Nancy, 563.
Okay, 563. All right, wonderful. All right, thank you so much.
And you can also see that information at the top of the page, what you're looking at. She has it spelled out for you up top.
Antoinette, yep, sorry, go ahead. Antoinette.
You're fine. So I text Rachel N to 2233, but when I responded, my answer said that you've not opened a poll yet.
Okay, let me check that. Is anybody else having that issue on the text side?
Did you text, when you did the 22333, did you do Rachel N 563?
Ha! Let me try that. That might be it. 563. Okay.
Should be okay. I just tried that too, so. Sorry, we're testing everyone's technology skills with yesterday and today's session, so. I already failed yesterday, so. All right, and we will leave this up on the screen a little bit more. All right, well, it looks like any additional questions? Great. So it looks like people are in, and so that's great. So just a reminder, as we go through the rest of this, you won't have to text that Rachel N anymore. All you will need to do is text an A, B, C, or whatever that is moving forward. So again, on that one, if you have not, for those people who have not taken that survey yet, please do take a look at that. There's a lot of really good information that comes out of that really helps us as we move forward into the programming phases of this project.
So sorry, I was a little late, Rachel, but can you say what survey that is?
Yeah, so there is a survey. It is currently posted on, it is posted on the Stanley White webpage, and is also posted on the City of New Bern Parks and Recreation Facebook page. And that is a survey dedicated only to the Stanley White Recreation Center project. So it has a number of questions regarding uses of space, different types of programs, indoor and outdoor, all kinds of things like that.
And that's for the whole, everybody in the community, or just the focus groups? Just
Nope,
asking if I
it is
can
open
ask
to
around.
everyone in the community. Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep. And so please do share that survey with your friends, with your family, with your community. So we want to get as many people to respond to that as possible. So we went through this a little bit on a roll call, but this is just a little bit to understand who do we have represented today on the call. So if you are on your phone, just text in whatever that response is in a text, or type that in on your web application. Yep. So that is we've got Dre with the Boys and Girls Club. And primarily, we have representation from a number of local nonprofits on today's call. And I think we have Josh from Promise Place also, and we have Antoinette from the New Bern People's Assembly. And Antoinette, you also represent Habitat for Humanity locally, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And so what we want to mostly talk about today is what goes inside of this building. We know that this is a real community center. It's a fixture of that local neighborhood as well as New Bern as a whole. And it's important that a replacement facility really serves the community for the next 40 plus years, as the previous one has served the many generations before it for a long period of time. A new and modern, typical modern recreation center in today's time has a lot of different uses and different needs than it may have a number of years ago. And what we want to understand from you all today is what are those uses and those needs within the New Bern community as we look to best serve that population over many years into the future. Just to kind of make sure everyone understands what that existing facility had in it. The existing Stanley White Recreation Center footprint was about 18,000 square feet, had a single basketball court and that large gym space, exercise rooms, activity rooms, a small kitchen area, and then a number of support spaces and restroom facilities. A new modern recreation center that may have multiple gym spaces, that may have an elevated walking track, which is very popular with a lot of older generation or with a lot of elderly to be able to walk inside in adverse conditions, weather conditions. That may mean more technology spaces to serve educational needs of the community. I know there's a lot of schooling from home happening right now, and what are those educational needs moving into the future for supplemental instruction too. Secure children areas. I know that New Bern has a number of summer camps that they host during those summer months, but is there a need to have a more dedicated space for when parents come to this facility to use it, or older siblings, for some of the younger kids to go. So again, that could be multiple gyms, which may be up to about 14,000 square feet. The entire facility potentially up to about 26,000 square feet. Kitchens such as demo kitchens, teaching kitchens, things like that. And so I mentioned a little bit the different types of spaces that could go in a facility like this. And this is, as I go through this is not all inclusive. So there are definitely things that could be added to this list. So we have a lot of education type spaces. Maybe that's classroom spaces. Maybe that's teaching kitchens, like I said, demonstration kitchens, nutrition discussions. Maybe it's community gathering, places for people in the community to network with one another, to hold meetings with each other. For some community groups, such as yours, to have a place within that area to be able to hold your board meetings or anything like that. And then fitness and athletic spaces. So these could be fitness rooms, cardio rooms, weight rooms, basketball courts, walking tracks, and even fitness studios where you can hold dance classes or different things like that. Under fitness and athletics, like I said, those fitness studios, cardio, weight rooms, wellness space was pretty popular in that first drop-in session we had, someplace where there's maybe a partnership with a local health system to have a place where they can perform different wellness services, climbing walls, gymnasium space, walking track, education spaces, those art and drama type classrooms, community kitchen, media lab. Esports is really popular right now to really attract the teen population to community centers and keep them active within that recreation community. And media labs can also be a place for education for training on different computer programs for all people of all ages. Kids play area, again, that can be those types of spaces that you may see at McDonald's or Chick-fil-A, type of secure space for those younger kids to go in and play. That's either supervised by staff members or supervised by their parents or guardian. Community spaces, a lobby, gallery space, that might be a space to showcase local art, history. We understand that it's that the history of the Stanley White Rec Center and of Stanley White himself is very important. So this might be a space to really showcase that and to teach the community about that and show the community about that. A game room for whether that's these kinds of more active games, pool, things like that, or card games, places to sit down, multi-purpose meeting rooms, maker spaces, and potentially a stage even that you have a type of space that maybe operates in the same way an elementary school does, where it has a combined auditorium, cafeteria, and gymnasium space. So that kind of dual purpose or multi-purpose use of those larger spaces. So next polling question. Which type of spaces are you most excited for in a new rec center? Is it those activity classroom type spaces? Is it the gathering and meeting spaces? Or is it the fitness and court spaces?
Hey, Rachel, are we supposed to give you the answers now?
Yes, so if you want to text A, B, or C, A for activity classroom spaces, B for gathering meeting spaces, and C for fitness court spaces.
Hey, I'm sorry, I had a lot of things going on with my technology, but I just have access to be able to call and talk. If you allow me to talk just for a little bit, I can give you that information real quick.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yes. So first of all, I would love to thank the city of New Bern and especially Parks and Recreation. You guys have done a lot in New Bern, and all the parks. I see you are creating an atmosphere where people can get out and really have some kind of freedom, especially during these tough times. And you guys are very diligent, and we are very thankful for having you. And when it comes to Stanley White specifically, that is a very important space, and I think there has been some shared misunderstanding because we have a food pantry, as you may know, in Craven Terrace, and we have an office there providing different services, and we distribute food. We've distributed a lot of food, especially this year. And that place has been a place where everybody can go and really actually have some kind of time where they can get into different things. So we are so thankful that a lot of people thought like, oh, they're going to take it away and it's not going to be rebuilt. But we are very grateful that it's going to be in the community so that people don't misunderstand that was being taken away. The park is already there, and that building will save something huge. But I think because of COVID-19, the nature of work and how we organize and how we reach to the community is going to change for a while. Therefore, having a room where you're able to have an education space is extremely important, especially for parents there that don't have communication kind of facilities or equipment, because it's difficult. So it'll be good for parents to be able to be there, sit down with their kids and do some homework or be able to communicate, but also if there are community events to be able to reach out and air their views. So I think we are very excited about the education component of that. The gym and maybe the basketball court, but also having a test kitchen. I think that is also very extremely important. I know you guys have given the vocational training to be around there, so that's also a big plus for those people that really want to get certification. But having something within the community like a kitchen where somebody, maybe a professional, can demonstrate, because we distribute a lot of food. We've done about 875,000 pounds this year alone from January, and we are distributing this Wednesday again. But having a place within the Stanley Center, because we have people from Trentcoat crossing over to come and get food in Duffy Field. So that is a great location to have some form of kitchen, but also that can serve as a soup kitchen, because sometimes we distribute food, but if somebody is homeless or they don't have any access to food, maybe we can have some programs where it can be like it can serve like a soup kitchen where willing organizations or non-profits can help and bring resources together and feed warm meals to the community in case of an emergency. So thank you so much. I just wanted to say, hey, you guys are doing a wonderful job, and being able to dedicate resources to bring back that center and that community, that is huge. Because, for example, we got about 800 basketballs that we wanted to donate to the community, but because there was no center, the kids were going out of the community to go on somewhere. But because of COVID, everything stopped. But if this project works, we still have those resources to assist so that we can have somewhere to start. So thank you so much, and I know a lot of people want to put in their input. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. I appreciate your input on that, especially your comments about what you do and how that relates to what can kind of come out of the center in terms of that test kitchen potentially demonstration, to be able to really tie into partnerships with the community.
Can I ask a quick question, Rachel?
Yes.
So they're actually working on a kitchen with the Volt Center and this open market thing. How is this going to be related to that? And the reason I'm asking is because you don't want to basically duplicate a resource that's already close to a center. Does that make sense?
Can I interject one thing here, just so that everyone, this is Reggie Scales, by the way, with CPL, just so everyone is aware, this meeting is being recorded. And so if you could announce your name when you provide a comment. So I believe this is Ms. Bosky.
It is me, yes, sir.
Okay.
I know that they've been working on this market and kitchen. It's been in the works for years to be connected to the Vote Center. So I'm just wondering how much of this is going to be included, because it sounds like we could potentially create a resource that there's already been funding into creating.
Yeah, and so what we're trying to do here with these meetings is to understand what the community needs, and in further discussions with you all, with people in the community, and with the New Bern staff, understanding, are those things that are already covered elsewhere, or where are the gaps and things like that. So I'm not saying that there is definitely a kitchen here that's a demonstration kitchen. What we're asking more is, what does the community see as resources that are needed? Are those offered elsewhere? Where can this help supplement some of that? And so just a lot more on the information gathering stage right now. Does that help
Thank
answer
you.
your question?
It does.
Okay.
Rachel, this is Joshua again. I just wanted to come in just because of the kitchen suggestion that was given. I completely understand we don't have a lot of resources, and therefore duplication of resources or centers would be a challenge and not effective. However, the Vox Center mostly centered, I think, towards certification or people being able to use it. But when it comes to community like Craven Terrace, there's a lot of stereotypes, but also it's an underserved population. Sometimes it's good to have a service that is within their community, where they're able to see people like them that are available and a walkable distance, that they can just cross the road and they will be there. That's when you can increase participation. That's when you can have a buy-in from the community. Because if you continue increasing barriers of them to have to cross the road or going to a place where different things are being offered, some people are stigmatized because they are not used to going to institutions or places where they feel they can get help, even if it's for free. So Stanley White is something they are familiar with, and having a service within the community reduces those barriers for those people with a lot of stigma towards a lot of things, or, you know, so I think that is where the challenge comes in. However, yes, the Vox Center, if it's free for any individual to walk in and do some stuff, that is fine. But however, it is not within the community, so that creates a challenge.
So, this is Antoinette. Let me jump in here. If we're going to talk about what's in the community, a lot of people in the community don't feel like Gaston Boulevard is in their community. And that's not even a question that's even been addressed yet.
We will get to that later in here. So, all right, thank you for your comments on that kitchen, the kitchen idea and stuff too. So moving to the next question, what's on the screen, as an organization and as citizens of New Bern, what size meeting spaces are most important to you? And so we have A is 8 to 15 people, B 20 to 50 people, C 50 to 100, and D 100 plus. And this is to understand what type of spaces we would want to provide within the building that would get the most use and be able to serve the larger community the best. I know that, so right now we don't have any votes on the smaller rooms, but there is opportunities to provide a larger room that can be broken down into smaller rooms and vice versa, to be able to provide flexibility. One of the most important things that we think about when we look at community centers and recreation centers is multi-purpose and flexibility, because those are the things that best serve the community long-term, and provide for the most changes long-term. We know that people don't recreate the same way they used to, even 10 years ago. So as we look into the future, we want to provide that. Is there one space that has not been mentioned or discussed that you think would make this recreation center successful? And again, we're talking what goes inside of the building, what types of spaces and programs and activities happen inside that building. And if you aren't able to type that in, feel free to respond out loud as well. we'll give you a minute just to. All right. So everything so far that we've mentioned kind of covers the basis for what goes inside, I guess. So the next thing that we wanted to just kind of touch on is location. So for those of you that are not aware, and hopefully you can see my mouse here, this is Henderson Park, or the front portion of Henderson Park. The existing facility, Stanley White Center, is right here. There is a location that is proposed as an alternative location to relocate this to, and that location is on 3rd Avenue in this green area right here, fronting on 3rd Avenue, not fronting on Gaston Boulevard. And I do want to mention the city has, I believe it's right-of-way along the front of this parcel here. That could provide for a strong connection between the facility, between the park and the facility, if that facility is located in this location. And that is not a final determination at this point. And so we do want to ask this question because we want to understand if that facility is relocated, we want to understand the best use for Henderson Park. So for that open space that becomes available at Henderson Park. So I do want to say Henderson Park will always stay a park. There are certain grants and different things in place that require it to stay a park in perpetuity forever. So so that will not be infilled with any other development. That will always stay a park. So this question, if the recreation center is relocated to that 3rd Avenue site or another site, what type of space would you like to see at the existing location in Henderson Park? So A is a spray ground, kind of a water features. B, a picnic shelter. C, public art. D, an outdoor basketball court. E, community gardens. And F, outdoor fitness. So vote for spray ground. So basically, which is a splash park, splash pad area. I know New Bern has an aquatic center with a splash pad, but it's not located right here in this neighborhood, so in this general area. And it's not to say that there couldn't be a combination of some of these things out there as well.
So
Hey,
Rachel,
Rachel.
this is Antoinette.
Yes.
I don't know if it's working or not because I've sent A, C, E, and F, but I don't see anything up there.
Okay.
Hey, and Rachel, this is Joshua again. I think they have had some requests actually, because we had some meetings with the chief of police and the commissioners, and people wanted actually, they want to have like something like a water feature. So having an aquatic feature replacing that space would be great. And one last comment, within the building itself, whether located or in the current position, is there going to be like an enterprise kind of space, like a business center or something? But it also can be enterprise, maybe where there can be like a salon or a barber shop where people can actually interact and different non-profits can work with those businesses within the center to kind of spread around any kind of message that they want to the community to benefit from, like in terms of resources.
I can't tell you what's going to be in the center and what's not, because that is for that is what this process is about, and getting your input. So thank you for that input on that type of space, to understand that that maybe has a need in this community as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
And Antoinette, I apologize for that. I did write down the items that you noted here. So.
Thank you.
And then is there a space or a program that was not an option on that previous slide? So in terms of, again, what goes in that place at Henderson Park where the facility was located, if that facility is relocated, that wasn't mentioned that you'd like to see there? And feel free to jump in over the phone too if you have any comments. All right. What we and I should stop myself for a second. Reggie, Foster, is there anything that you want to add to this point at all in any of that before I go into some of those results?
I'm good on my end.
Nope, good on this end as well. I do think we need to spend some time talking about neighborhood boundaries at the conclusion of our discussion tonight.
Okay.
Hey, Rachel. I'm
yes.
sorry. It's Antoinette. I sent a response. I didn't see it. I'm sorry. My technology is not working, but
I feel you with that.
There was some good response back previously when the city mentioned the that, you know, they gave ideas to the community to say, hey, these are some ideas. Let's get your brain rolling about what you might want to see. They like the small amphitheater idea.
Okay. All right. Good to know. Thank you. I wanted to just share with you some of the results that we had at the previous drop-in session on August 31st. So we had a 4-hour drop-in session at the Omega Center, which is fairly close to the project site. It was a 4-hour drop-in session. We had at least 91 people. We had 91 people sign in. So if there were any that got past the sign-in table, I'm not sure about those. But we had some really great feedback from the community, so we really appreciated that. We had these boards. These are photos of the boards that we had there with the results there. So looking at this, we had 3 different boards of people to vote. Everyone got 3 votes to put on. The color dots didn't matter at all. That indoor courts, so basketball court spaces, was the most popular at 43. We had a number of people who specifically requested 2 courts because and that was generally speaking, those who were under the age of 25 or so, because they frequently get kicked off the courts when there's another event or summer camp or things like that. So that was one thing that was really important to that group. We had about 26 and 27 on that cardio weight room, arts and crafts classroom. A kind of good size amount on the walking track and the tech and gaming lounge too. And that performance stage was pretty popular as well. And what we did mention to people is that these spaces are not exclusive of one another. A lot of these space uses overlap. They can happen within the same space. And when we talk about flexibility of space and multi-use space, that's where this comes into play. And so that really allows us to provide a number of these different types of activities and programs within the same, with the same kind of 4 walls and space. So that other category had a number of write-in comments. And I have those in a slide upcoming. On the online survey results, we've had some results come in for that online survey. Those are pretty heavy on the wellness space, walking track, community meeting spaces, and really that court space also, those 4 items. In terms of programs and activities, cooking and nutrition classes was really popular, as well as the kind of fitness dance classes. And then concerts came in, and that's, I think, where that potential need for, and maybe that's where the amphitheater idea comes from as well, the stage amphitheater type piece. In terms of what's important to people, safety, security, well-lit areas, the cost of participation and activities and programs that are offered were some of those most important on the list. Some of the write-in comments that we've gotten from the online survey and from the engagement session, the drop-in session, are a lot of comments about this facility being used as an emergency shelter, to be used as a polling site, a boxing space and program, learning center. We had comments both directions. Some people really wanted a pool. Some people really didn't want a pool. Again, the 2 courts comment came up a few times, community pantry, trade programs, and spaces and activities for seniors as well. And so, Reggie, I don't know if you want to jump in here as we talk about those kind of boundaries.
Sure. Yeah. So as we have kind of worked our way through the process, we've heard a number of comments about the neighborhood and what is the neighborhood and the boundaries. And I know, Ms. Bosky, you had some comments on it, as well as others from the open house we had a few weeks ago. I guess the key question for the group as we're moving along is, what is the quote unquote neighborhood boundaries, or what makes up that neighborhood that we're referencing? For some people, that's a that could be a living room. For others, it's a 10 square mile area, and it's always specific to a particular neighborhood. So I'm interested in any comments that you may have on that.
Hi, it's Antoinette. You hear me?
Yes.
Loud and clear.
Okay. So one of the things that I'm hearing from some community members, hey, this is not where we are. Some are saying, hey, I don't care, just let it be. Some are saying, hey, you know what, they're gonna do what they want to do anyway, just let them do it. But what I did was, for the ones who had concerns, I said, hey, come in for me. Let's get a map. Draw to me what you see as your community, right? What you see as your neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
They would draw that line down Broad Street from where Creamer Brew starts, right? Straight down Broad Street to where how can I do, what's the name of that street? It's the street right where the church is before Craven Terrace. They would go around the line, go down Cedar Street, and say, yeah, that's Duffy Field, this is 5 points. But the main thing I'm hearing is this concern that putting it on Gaston Boulevard means that the residents there are not going to have that access, or that other residents are now going to decide they want to use this facility, and the residents that live there or in that community are not going to have as much access. Now, granted, I'm not one to make that decision. That's not my call. What I have really been pushing is community consensus, which is why I wanted to know about that survey, so that we can post it, we can push it, and we can help to make sure that y'all are getting feedback from everybody. Out of 3,500 people, and I said this to the community, 91 people showing up ain't a good number to me. That's not a good number to me out of 3,500 people, y'all. So definitely want to push that survey so that that feedback does get back, because honestly, for me, my main goal is, for so long, 15, 20 voices have made decisions for 3,500 people. And that's what I don't want to see happen.
So let me touch on that for a moment. The public participation plan that the city has adopted, and let me take you to the beginning. The resolution that the board, adopted earlier this year, appointing the Stanley White Rec Center, really advisory committee, really kind of set the tone That committee met in mid-August, and they made a determination that what goes in the building will drive the process. Not the location, not right now, but what goes in the building will drive the process. And I believe the basis of determination for that really dealt with what was necessary and needed for that neighborhood in the 70s, which is when the building was opened and commissioned, is different than what's needed in 2020, 2030, and beyond. And so that's how we moved forward with. We're going to talk about what goes in the building for the neighborhood. Now, eventually we're going to get to the neighborhood discussion, but the overarching process for pulling information from the neighborhood and just to go to your point, the thoughts of a few kind of, defining what happens for the many. This process is kind of the opposite of that, because we had the open house for the entire community a few weeks ago. Now we're doing the small group sessions, and this is what we're doing tonight. We tried to do last night. We had technology issues. We're doing that all week. And then once we get this information along with the surveys, the online surveys, and absolutely, I hope, you can get that information out to folks, we'll come back with another neighborhood meeting before we kind of define, okay, this is what we're doing in the building, and then this is kind of where it's going to be located. So we're literally in the middle of process right now of pulling out that information, but I want to make sure that we're clear. The advisory committee is driving this process, and they made clear it's all about what's happening in the building and the activities right now, and that's our focus. So, but again, that survey is key, Ms. Bosky. So pulling all that information in. Does that help? Or?
That helps a lot, and I'm glad you shared that. Because here's another thought I'm going to throw out there. The lack of transparency has definitely been something that has caused an increase in the divisiveness of it. So my question is, why are we not giving right now there are a lot of community members focused on this location, and there were some that were there for the listening session who said, I'm not voting on amenities because they just want us to pick these amenities so that they could say it ain't gonna fit in this building in the same location where we want it. So why are we not being transparent as an advisory committee to the community, which was why the advisory committee was formed in the first place? Connection to the community, transparency. Why are we not being transparent to the community to say, look, let me tell you guys, what we put in this building is what's going to drive it? Because right now, a lot of community members feel like you're just trying to pull the wool over our eyes by telling us to pick these amenities just so you can come back and tell us, oh, we can't put this in the space.
Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying? How that
I do.
creates a cycle?
Yep. And so in terms of the amenities or what goes in the building, it is, and I think we've gotten to a point now where we're conflating actually the activities and what happens in the building with location. And really, I understand you really can't separate those. But when you're talking about the amenities, my argument would be the activities and what's offered in the building, really, that's what Stanley White really, from everything I've heard and learned about Stanley White and who he was, it was what's happening in that building. And I think and I'm not speaking for the steering committee, but it's what's happening in that building, not the amenities, but what happens in that building that is kind of defines his legacy. And the location is certainly, you can't separate it, but was the starting point. And again, I'm not speaking for the committee. I'm just trying to give you an understanding of what they're saying. That being said, what we tried to convey during the initial workshop was, okay, we're focusing on activities. We will get to a discussion of location. That's not off the table. But what we need to do is to have folks come to us and engage right now as a part of this process. We don't want anybody to feel left out. All opinions and values and ideas and thoughts, they will be heard during this process. To be clear, once we get to the end, we're looking for consensus. And consensus means that all ideas are heard, but, all ideas are not a part of the final solution, if that makes sense. But we're trying to get folks to step up and give us some thoughts and opinions.
Thank you, Reggie. It makes perfect sense. And let me say, I do like this process. This process is much more inclusive than it was before. And again, this is not for you, but really it goes back to that transparency and going ahead and putting that information out to the community. Not your role, but I'm just throwing it out there for anybody on the advisory board that may hear this. If we want to get the community where they will be more participatory and feel like they are included, we can't hold these balls and not tell them your amenities are, the way you worded it was perfect. Your amenities are important. We want amenities to drive this project. Let's drive from that seat so that they're not continuing to drive from location, because right now they're driving from 2 different cars. They're not even in the same car with everybody. You get what I'm saying?
I do.
And creating that transparency is then what starts to create trust between a community and a city that has long had trust issues.
All right, and so you said the key word, Ms. Gosking, which is trust. And, as you would imagine, we do quite a few of these projects, Rachel and I, and so one of the key things we find is that there are a number of issues outside of the actual objective of the project that are pushing and informing and sometimes, keeping us from actually getting to a desired solution. And so one of the things the steering committee, and again, I have to go back to them, they set up some goals. And one of the things they said is they would create kind of these parking lot issues where there are things that are critically important to the community that may not be specific to the project that they would place over here. And then they try to figure out a way to deal with them. But at the end of the day, we've got a rec center that is so important to this community that we need to get rebuilt. And so we can't solve all the problems, but what we can do is identify them and place them kind of in that parking lot area and keep this project moving forward. So.
Hey, Reggie.
And Antoinette, I just wanted to give me 1 second, Josh. I think you might have hopped on a little bit late, but I did want to mention that there is a website set up for the Stanley White Rec Center. It is live right now, though it will have some additional information coming onto it in the near future. That website has links to the schedule. It has links to all of the committee meetings, the advisory board meetings. It has links to all of those meetings, the minutes, as well as I think those were all recorded as well. And we'll have a Q&A section on there, so to answer some frequently asked questions like some of the ones that you brought up today. So please do share that with the public as well. And there is a QR code for that, and I can send that out as well. But that QR code was on all of the handouts that will take you direct to that website. It was on all of those handouts at the drop-in session.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Rachel. I definitely got that information. I have been on the website. I got the QR code, but I'm thinking about the people who don't necessarily have the technology expertise.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things I would say is, the committee, and I keep going back to the committee, but they're driving the process. And so please have folks reach out to them individually or collectively and just make their thoughts known. But again, for those who are technology challenged or who may not have the options and opportunities, there's, the recreation department is there, and I'm pretty sure Foster would have his staff or someone available if they want to walk in just to make those comments known. The key thing, and I want to go back to one of the words you mentioned, was transparency. If you'll look at the website, and if you look at these meetings and the schedule Rachel posted earlier, the website's going to be updated over the next few days. And there's going to be a current activity session to let you know what's happening or what's going on. But again, we're in the thick of it right now in terms of collecting that public information. Once we get it in, we'll synthesize it and then send it back out to the overall committee and our overall neighborhood rather, and really the city, and folks will have a chance to comment again. And again, you can have them contact me directly, because we want to make sure that all are heard. And I believe I gave you my card at the the community at the workshop.
In Foster, you have printouts of the survey located at a few different places in New Bern. Is that correct?
We have them at Parks and Recreation Administration, and we've got them at the West New Bern Recreation Center. We can also have them at the Omega Center. We're currently operating that facility Monday through Thursday from, we've got programs going on from basically 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. daily.
Okay. And so for those who can't get online, to take that survey online, they can definitely fill out a paper copy and return that, to Parks and Rec, or we can do a collection or something, and we will make sure we get all of those comments in. Dre, yes.
Yes, I just have a comment, and it might be way in left field or so, but it's just, I guess, probably the way my brain's working. With these focus groups and stuff that you're having, and I know a lot of times, and it may come from the fact because of what I do for a living, have you all had done anything where you got feedback from the young people in the community? Because whatever you build now, they're the future of the, and I think sometimes, I'm an advocate for my young people, especially teenagers who tend to get a bad rap. Have you thought of doing something to get some feedback from them? Because you might be surprised. I've been part of, different, focus groups like this for the same sort of, for facilities and things like that. And that may be a group that we may not want to overlook. And I'm not sure if you have or if it's in the future, but it may be something to think about to make sure that you do get true input from the community, because the young people, whatever you build, that's really the building you're building for them and for future use, not just us and those of us who are here now who can, So I just wanted to mention that.
Hey, Dre, this is Foster with Parks and Recreation. Very, very good point that you made. Just so you know, that the public input meetings that we did, the first one, we encouraged all the youth to come in and participate. We had about a dozen that came, but our final focus group meeting, my goal is to invite nothing but youth to that program, to that meeting, because you're exactly right. 20, 30, 40 years from now, those folks are the ones that are really going to be using that facility.
Yeah, and yep. Thanks. That's just let me know, so I can help in any way I can to round up some troops, or even get them on virtually to a meeting if that's the way, because we most definitely can do that on our end. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Josh,
Hey, Rachel,
yeah, go ahead.
Right, a quick question. I know time is running out. I don't know if this is for Reggie or for Mr. Hughes. I just want to have an understanding, because we have a huge stake in that community and we see a lot of people on a daily basis. Just to give maybe a picture, during the summer, we've been serving 300 to 300 hot meals, lunches every day, besides the food, besides the other services. Like on the last Wednesday of every month when we distribute food, except the weather tomorrow, but like Thursday, we have about 600 people coming through the lines. So we can be able to communicate an effective message as and when we reach a consensus of what is going to happen. However, my question is the movement of the structure to a different location. What necessitated that? Is it something to do with, because it's in the floodplain, it can't be raised, it has to be moved? Or what considerations did they have to consider that we have to move it? Is it solely based on it being in a floodplain, or are there any other factors? And where can we find that information? Because if we know the reason why another place is being considered, we are able to communicate to the community effectively to say, hey, don't have these misconceptions. They want to move it because they want to save money. They don't want it to be destroyed again. They're going to invest a lot of millions of dollars into doing something new, so it should be in a safer place. What is the underlying problem why we are considering a different location? But also another thing to consider, sometimes even if you have all the amenities in a unit, access is also sometimes very important, because if it's located in the wrong place, it creates barriers for other people. So we have to consider, why are we moving it to that location? if we can clearly be able to communicate the reasons why they're considering a separate location, I think we are in a position to work with the city and all the stakeholders to go to the community, because we're in the community every day, and say, hey, listen, there's nothing sinister here. There's nothing to undermine anybody. They are moving it or considering another location for these reasons. And if those things are on the website or they are somewhere, I would love to get to that information, and we can continue helping people to understand what's going on.
All right, I'll let Foster, if you want, address the issue of location, and then I'll give you a couple comments on some things that you've said and your mission. So, or Foster, if you want me to address it, that's fine.
So one of the key reasons that the city is looking at moving this is it's currently in a floodplain, and so if we build the facility back in its current location, that the building would be elevated approximately 6 to 8 feet above the existing level of what it is now. And if you ride by the Stanley White Recreation Center, I put yellow 2x4 blocks on the corner of every corner of the building. The top block is where the new building elevation would be. And I think that several of our board members have made the strong recommendation that they would like to see it moved out of the flood zone, so we don't have to worry about any potential flooding in the future. The thought with the new property, the proposed new property, is it's out of the flood zone. There would not be any worries with any flooding in the future. There is room there to where you could expand the footprint of the building if possible. If the building were to stay in its current location, there were a couple of factors that would prevent us from being able to expand that footprint. One of them is the architects and engineers that originally gave us our estimates when we were going through the FEMA process told us basically to build the same facility back at that location is going to cost that $8 million and change. And so we would get the same building. We would, in a nutshell, we'd be getting a 1970s building back in that same location. And so, yes, there was talk about, well, okay, because it's going to cost so much to elevate that building in its current location. And so then some conversation started, well, if it was moved, could we do a bigger building? And so that's some of the process we're going through now to fill things out with that.
And I think I understand too that one of the things that came up from the Board of Aldermen was if moved, it could be an emergency shelter for the community. If it stays in the current location because it's in a floodplain, it cannot be.
That's correct.
Yeah, and
no,
I guess, yeah, the other thing I will say is, as a part of this process, we are doing what's called an environmental analysis or environmental assessment, NEA. The lead agency is FEMA, and that team is being led by Chelsea Klein. She's on the call along with a number of members of her team tonight, evaluating and listening. Part of that process will require us to evaluate alternatives. So we'll look at the existing, the location of the existing facility, and we'll also evaluate one or more alternative facilities. So we will go through that process over the next few weeks and months to make sure that we document everything. I want to step back to kind of part of your mission in terms of what you're saying, because it relates to kind of what we're seeing as it relates to COVID and the new normal and how things are changing. And what you're talking about in terms of feeding folks, food insecurity is a growing concern nationally. And so in terms of, again, your mission and what you're doing, certainly that needs to be considered in terms of what we're talking about here as it relates to this facility. But that also goes back to the point of the steering committee who's looking at what was there in the 70s as opposed to the clear and present needs of today, if that makes sense. And so as we go through this, and after this call, I'm going to talk to Ms. Bosky, and certainly you're welcome, and others, because we need to get a really, I think, a firm understanding of that neighborhood boundaries and kind of how that sets up. And that helps us to understand accessibility and flow and where folks are going.
Wonderful. Hey, I really appreciate you guys for clarifying that. And when you spoke and Foster spoke, Mr. Hughes, what I've understood really is I think it will save us best if we look towards the direction of a new location. However, I know it's a process and everybody has to participate. But if it's able to work as an emergency center when we have problems like Florence or something, and also we can save money but build a bigger building, I think it's the best way to go, and I really appreciate clarifying that. And I think anybody reasonable, if those things are communicated to look at the benefits and some of the costs of remaining in the current location, I think that if that point can be amplified, I think there'll be a consensus to look towards something that can save us better in the future. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Josh. Antoinette?
Quick question. And this is a question that's been asked to me that I can't answer. And I'm hoping maybe there'd be some clarity here. There's a question of, okay, there's the thought that, okay, emergency shelter would be great because then this community that has transportation issues, you don't have to worry about busing people. They're right there where they live. However, in American culture, once something new develops, people want to flock to what's new. So if we're developing this as an emergency shelter and saying this is going to be a great benefit for this community, how is that going to be a guarantee that they will be able to be housed at this shelter when they need to evacuate, with it being in such a flood-prone area?
Foster, I don't know if that's you or somebody else from the city.
Yeah, I can basically talk generically about this. And, the main thing is no matter what happens with Stanley White Recreation Center, it's a public facility. It's open to all of the citizens of the city of Newberry, period. I mean, it's a public facility. The city does not
Hold on. Sorry, hold on. I think Antoinette dropped out for a sec. She's back.
Sorry, I did. I'm sorry. Phone service.
Yeah, she's back. Go ahead.
The city does not run emergency shelters. Basically, that's the role of the American Red Cross. When a disaster is declared, Craven County coordinates the Red Cross and brings them in. And if this is designated, the new center is designated as a Red Cross shelter, basically they have their criteria for accepting people into a shelter. And basically everyone is accepted until space fills out. Great example of that is when during Hurricane Florence, we opened the West Newbern Recreation Center, and we were at capacity for 2 months with citizens from all over Craven County using this facility. So it would really be no different if I don't want to even think about it, but if something else bad happened again, to where we would have to, if this center was built, no matter where it was, and it was a designated shelter, all of the citizens would have the ability to go there if need be.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, well, I want to thank you all for your time here today. In the chat, if you are on the computer in the chat, I did drop in that survey link. Again, that survey link is on the city's website and on the Facebook page. Please do share that. Again, feel free to share paper copies as well. We will take paper copies in. We want to get as many responses as possible in whatever manner.
And Rachel, I was just looking at some of the chats. Yes, Antoinette, we can drop some surveys off at Promise Place. Absolutely.
Yes, we'll be happy to assist
Thank
in
you.
the information dissemination. Thank you.
Perfect. I was just thinking, with them serving so many people from the community right there in the community, that pantry might be the perfect place to get a good response.
Absolutely. We'll drop some by tomorrow.
That will be wonderful, because tomorrow, Thursday, we are distributing the food, and we have about 3 trucks from Feeding America. So we're going to have about 700 or 600 people. So if we have that information, we can make copies and we can make sure that everybody takes home the information about what you guys are intending to do. And I just want to recommend you again. You guys are doing a wonderful job. When you look at our parks, we are really happy. Thank you.
What would be the best time for us to stop by there in the morning?
Anytime we are there from 8 to 5, but between 8 and 12 before noon, anytime, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
Sure.
and do you mind, are you able to, Josh, are you able to collect those and then Foster can pick them up from you? In a
Yes,
couple weeks or something like that?
I think we could
yes,
drop a
and
box off. We could drop a box
Yeah.
off where they could just put them right in there. We can do that.
and yes, and I can get the feedback right after then, because we start at 7 o'clock when the trucks start arriving, and we distribute after 2 o'clock. And during that time, sometimes people sign in, and we can have those. So at the end of distribution, probably about 3 o'clock on Thursday, I can have that feedback. So if you do 1,000, because I already have people that live in Craven Terrace, but we have Trench Court coming over, we have Duffy Fields, and anybody around New Bend. So if you give me 1,000 copies of whatever you have, I will get that feedback in terms of surveys at the end of Thursday. Maybe around 3 o'clock, I'll have 1,000 copies of feedback.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you, sir.
And Dre, I just saw your comment as well. Thank you for distributing that as well at the New Bern Teen Center. All right. Well, again, thank you all for your time. Please do reach out if you have any additional comments, questions. And again, we will be having two more drop-in sessions before the end of this engagement process. So please do drop by and encourage your neighbors too as well. So. Thank you all for your time tonight. Thanks for staying on an extra 15 minutes as well. I think we had a great discussion. So looking forward to speaking with you more in the future.
Thank you.
Reggie, did you want me to stay on now or?
Yeah, let's yeah, if did I give you my card at the workshop or the open house?
I believe I got a card from you, and it would be in the book.
Yeah.
But I believe I did.
Here's what I'd like to do. We've got another session on Thursday. And so let me go through that session, and then we need to follow up with you and some others so that we get a good sense of those neighborhood boundaries. That's really what we're looking for, because we get a lot of comments about, well, it's outside the neighborhood, it's not close. And we just want to make sure that we're evaluating and making sure that we're covering all the bases in terms of where folks are located and their understanding of what is the neighborhood. So
thank you. And
let me just get your if I can get your number or your email
Sure.
address will be better.
Email is abosky at cravencountyhabitat.org.
Yeah, I know you did the sign-in list, right?
I did, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Numbers 252 558 5785. And let me say this. I do like this process. I love this process, actually, because it does give people an opportunity, which is why I've been really pushing people to participate, be heard, let your voice be heard. Each
Absolutely.
voice matters. And I don't want to be seen as someone who is trying to be controversial or create tension, but I do want to be transparent and make sure I'm sharing the things that come from the phone calls and the texts and the community walks, because I don't feel that it's right for me to just hold that and not share that with the people who are doing this work and making these decisions. So for me, I will say, do I believe if we were taking a vote on consensus, Do I feel like this location has great potential for the community? Yes, I do. But I also know the history here and want people to feel like they were heard. I
Mhm.
want everyone to participate. And I do believe in consensus. Everybody may not, I could be one that says, hey, you know what? I wanted to move. And the majority could say, keep it there. I understand consensus says my idea might not be the one done, but I
Mhm.
truly believe in that idea of consensus and inclusion.
Absolutely.
And I'm
But
just,
that's, again, even before we were awarded this job, that was the number one thing that we talked about actually during the interview. And I'm gonna go all the way back to last year and earlier this year. It's that's how we operate as that's how we develop these projects, in understanding that unless everybody has an opportunity to give their input, then we kind of begin with the end in mind. Then you're just setting yourself up for failure at the end. So at the end of the day, what we want is what the community wants, no more, no less. What does the community want, and what does the community need? And so that's why I believe the conversations that we've had with the steering committee, and they truly are, I think they have a really good understanding and a really great concept of what is going on there, but they need to hear from people as well. And so sometimes that means putting some of our opinions and past issues aside, but yeah, yeah.
you got that right. I love it. I love it. And I will definitely push getting people to complete the survey so that you all can get that feedback.
Okay, all right. That sounds like a plan. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. All right. You have a good evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Okay.
Hold on one second.
Yeah.